And a very good morning and welcome back to the Ashley Forest for the Winmax brake pads Ashley Forest Rally Sprint for 2018. Here another absolutely glorious day in North Canterbury. Temperatures expected to be a little bit warmer than yesterday, although I do see that Blue Skies Weather have put an announcement out overnight that expecting snow down to low levels in parts of the South Island from midnight tonight. So lucky we've got the event in today, and as you can see from the pictures, absolutely glorious here in North Canterbury. A very good morning to Lindsay Kerr joining me in the commentary position this morning.
Yeah, morning Grant, great to be back, and as you say, the weather is absolutely superb, and it'll be so for the rest of the day. Well, as long as we get it all through, we'd have to come back tomorrow again.
Indeed. And with the couple of incidents late yesterday, of course, you may remember that they put the final cars in the last of the qualifying three run to come today. So we've got about 12-13 cars still to go through the course to complete their third qualifying run, and from that then the top 32 will start the elimination rounds. So we just get set to wait for our first competitor of the day coming up to the start line to get himself ready for the challenge today. And a special thanks to our live streaming partners today, Winmax brake pads, the Magnum Group, Import Parts, Carter's Tyre Service in Rangiora, and British Safety. Without their support, you would not be watching this live streaming wherever you are. And as our first car gets ready to go and head up the hill.
So it's Mark Patterson from Christchurch, who had a nervous wait late yesterday, hanging around thinking he was going, but not to beat, had to sleep on it overnight. So it's Mark Patterson and his Subaru Impreza is away up the hill today, first time today.
And a special good morning around the course too to all our Momax staff here, bringing you this live streaming coverage today. A crew of 14 people here to bring this groundbreaking technology to you and allow you to witness the action as it unfolds here on the Winmax brake pads Ashley Forest Rally Sprint for 2018.
And you've probably noticed already, those who were with us yesterday, there's been a couple of changes to the camera positions today, and so it's all part of a learning curve, and from my observation so far, these new camera angles are better.
Indeed. And of course the cameras are all linked via Wi-Fi technology as we watch Mark Patterson come to the finish line.
He's done a 103 even.
103. It's a good time for Mark Patterson. So car number 13 now comes to the start line, which is Nick Clark. Nick Clark from Christchurch, competing in the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint for the first time. He's done two events in his recently built Evo 6 and taking his car to the hill here at Ashley Forest for the first time today. From Christchurch, number 13, Nick Clark.
Talking about the Evos yesterday, Grant, and those early Evos, the 1 and the 2s and the 3s, they're little scooters off the line, aren't they? Magnificent how they get off the line so quickly.
And certainly a little bit lighter too, I think, than the heavier 4, 5, 6s, so still a very popular choice, particularly in club cars. And the road conditions here, Lindsay, look pretty good. The road not cutting up, not getting too much gravel build up either.
No, it is pretty good. I had some comment last night about, it appeared very lumpy early on. I didn't think though. It looked pretty reasonably smooth to me. Those tracks look pretty good. The hairpin did cut up a bit as the day went on, but that's just to be expected, really.
We watch him coming down towards the finish line. He's been through the dipper, and to the final corner here on this course is Nick Clark. A 110.488, I think we heard say for Nick Clark. So that's actually slightly slower than the times he was doing yesterday. As up to the start line comes our next competitor, which is...
I beg your pardon, that's Mark
This here is
Pedersen
Mark
now.
Pedersen now. Here we go.
Right, so I have to say that our site today is not as good as yesterday, but with the people on the line here, but our screen is on the side of that car. Yeah, that is definitely Mark Pedersen, which is the white one, not the blue one, who was before. I think it was Eric Clark who we were talking about, who did a 103 grunt. This is definitely Mark Pedersen now. I apologise for calling out Mark's name before, it clearly wasn't.
So his previous best result for Mark was 32nd in the 2016 version of the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. Mark says that they built this car from scratch, running its third engine. The previous two have died, so let's hope this one stays in good song for the rest of his competition today as they try to set a time to get into that top 32, and we think it's somewhere around probably the 1:14, or it will be the cut-off.
That's what we were talking about yesterday, wasn't it? At 1:14, we think just below that will be the 32 cut-off.
As Mark comes up to the Hella hairpin at the top of the course, great shot of him coming out of the hairpin, and on the very, very quick and very adrenaline pumping downhill run here at Ashley Forest. Down towards the finish line comes Mark Pedersen, car number 12. $1:13.5. 8, so a 1:13, yep, that's about the cut-off point we were talking about, Lindsay.
Yeah, it's right on it actually.
And he's about half a second from his best time yesterday for Mark Pedersen. As car number 11 comes to the line, and this is Luke McLennan from Ashburton in a Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. The 5th time he's competed at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. 4 times previously he's made the top 16. And no doubt that is on his radar for today. His best finish being 12th overall. And this car running with just a standard motor, but a bigger turbo, sucking in that cold air this morning as they head up the hill.
I would say they will all be all got the bigger turbos this weekend, or the less restrictions on them. There is no rules governing this sort of thing. It's just per Schedule A of the Motorsport Association handbook. It's long as all the safety rules are covered off, that's all they need really. You can bring what you like here.
And that's the one thing that sets this event, isn't it, apart, or these type of events apart from anything else. It's all the home-built specials that Kiwis are well known for.
And like in the past, you know, we have had all sorts of hybrid machines here. I mean, really real hybrid machines, haven't we? With the NASCAR one upon a time we had here, didn't we? An old NASCAR.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Luke McLennan heading up the hill in his Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. I'm talking about all sorts of cars that can compete in this type of hill climb. I do remember the Race to the Sky many years ago. Was the guy's name Dave Donner or something? He came out from the USA and he had a single-seater.
Yeah,
with rally tyres on it and a big wing.
A very brave man to go in a single seater up that hill at Cadrona. I felt some of those drops there are huge, and to go off there not very nice. Mind you, those quad bikes used to go up there, and they used to worry a lot of people how those guys survived up there. They did. Well, guys like Ian Fitch, you were talking about yesterday, Grant, he was amazingly brave.
So here comes Luke McLennan from Ashburton down towards the finish line now for his final run in the three qualifying rounds to see if he can set a time to get into that top 32. Let's have a listen for his time. He's done a 107 before, 111.69, so maybe in the afternoon they were getting a bit quicker yesterday because Luke did a 111.71 in his first run, then got down to a 107, but it's a 111 first thing this morning.
That is a lot slower, Grant, and I'm not sure what that would be.
No.
I didn't see he had any issues of going up there, but however, I think 111 is still safe enough. He'll be.
Perhaps they just need to get out of bed and get their eye in this morning, Lindsay.
I think you're right. You get the impression that they still thought it was 9:30 start, like I did, and arrived at normal time and weren't prepared. Who knows?
So this is Jason McConnell, car number 10 now as we get down to the top 10. And this Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 7. His best result here being 18th in the past.
Jason McConnell, of course, is... I say of course because we spoke about it yesterday. He actually has a stock car background, which is a bit different to what we're doing here. He has competed here a bit before in the rally sprint, but as I was saying yesterday, I hope he doesn't pick on trees as opposed to what they do opposite cars in stock car racing. Those trees are not going to move at all.
Maybe he feels a bit lonely on the course without any other vehicles up there.
Oh, yeah, anyway. Never mind, it's complete opposite. But good on him for getting into it.
And he's put down some good times too. Jason did a 109.28 in his first run yesterday, got down to a 108.97 in his second qualifying run. And as we mentioned, the top 12, 13 cars are doing their final run for qualifying 3, held over from yesterday afternoon. And then we cut to the top 32 as the elimination rounds continue. 32, 16, 8, 4, 2 as Jason McConnell gets ready to go.
Interesting start.
Waving the jandal there as he gets up the hill.
Yes, he did.
And just as we watch Jason head up the hill, just a quick word on one of our live streaming sponsors today, Tyres, who have 2 stores here in Rangiora, in High Street and in Flaxton Road. If you want to head along to the High Street store that looks after all your car needs, new tyres, balancing, alignments, warranty fitness and servicing, and trucks and commercials, head along to the Flaxton Road branch of Carter Tyres Rangiora. And thanks to Shane for being one of our live streaming partners today, Carter Tyres with 2 stores, High Street and Flaxton Road in Rangiora, as we see Jason McConnell come round the hairpin and head down the hill towards the finish line to see if he can make the top 32. Looking to better a 108 if he wants to set a faster time today than he has so far in the first 2 runs.
He's a fraction slower than yesterday, Grant, a 109.
So, yep. So far, no one going any quicker than their Saturday times so far. So that pattern continuing at the moment as Garrett Thomas lines up on the start line in his Subaru WRX STI.
And Garrett's only in his 2nd year in the sport and rallying, but by gosh, he's made him an impression as the way he's gone in the Mainland Rally Series this year and the national rounds we've had down in the South Island. He certainly is a man with a great future, I suggest.
And a 2nd overall at the recent Hamner Forest Rally was his best result, and to put that car up against Josh Marsden in the Holden Marina AP4 was a superb result. Garrett Thomas, car number 9, the dust flies as he heads up the hill towards the Haller hairpin. And this car basically running as he does in most rallies. All he's done, like a lot of competitors, as Lindsay suggested, he's removed the restrictor to give it a bit more oomph, and he's up the hill towards the hairpin.
Grant, we're talking about the Impreza yesterday versus the Legacy, and when the Impreza came onto the national scene, yeah, it was Possum born when Possum won in 91.
That's right. That was the
Legacy. His only
it?
championship that he won was 91, and it was the first year of the Impreza.
That's right.
But Joe McAndrew subsequently won 3 titles with an Impreza.
Yeah.
So there we are.
And of course,
we were almost right.
Oh, yeah, we were. And there we are. We've got it sorted. And of course, Possum won with the great, the late Dr. Roger Freeth beside him, and I think it's just been 20 years last week since 25 years since Roger passed away.
On a personal level, it's what's hard to believe. He's such a large-as-life character was Roger Freeth, and it seems like he's been here forever, and he has. And it's great he's still.
So Garrett did a 106. Got down to a 103.83 in his second run. We've just missed his time for that one, but I'm sure he has no issues about being into the top 32. There's Graham Bajering from Thames, Waihi, the Mitsubishi Starion V8, and this car was built in 1992 by Don Hickman, the car that runs a 6-litre V8 now.
Is this the car that Kim Austin won in? Yeah.
The big V8 heads up the hill. Yes, Lindsay, it is the car that Kim Austin set the record in 1999, and that record, of course, stood for 17 years.
It was a 56.57. That was back in 1999. So. Yeah, that was a stunningly good time, wasn't it?
It certainly
was.
When
you think it was 20 years ago that was, he went to 56, and here we are now, thinking that it's a good time, but it's not going to be a winning time.
No, under 55 is going to be a winning time now, as he gets around the Hella hairpin and brings the big Starion V8s down the downhill run towards the final corner and the finish line. Graham Bajering from Waihi in the Mitsubishi Starion V8, 6-litre.
Another one of our North Island friends who've come down, as Graham has, like a lot of it before him.
Oh well, there we are, the first one to break the pattern this morning and go faster. He did a 109.30 in this first run, a 109.14, and this morning that run a 106.09. Great effort for Graham Bajering from Waihi, but he's going to need to pull a wee bit more out of that yet if he wants to get into the low elimination numbers.
And now we have one of the better known motorsport competitors in Canterbury, and indeed New Zealand. Trevor Crowe has been around for quite a long time, and probably the most successful driver to come out of this part of the world in motorsport, having won various touring car championships, which includes a 3rd place at the Wellington Street Race and 4th at Bathurst, 4 Oscar titles, and of course, as we sit here in Ashley Forest, he was the first South Islander to win this Ashley Forest Rally Sprint back in '85 in his Oscar Racing Starlet.
And of course, another gentleman who's made all sorts of home-built hybrid specials, from the Skoda V8s to the Justy to the Starlets.
And he still is. He's got another project on the table at the moment. And Trevor is in his 70s now, but he still works full-time at Crow Sport Motors in Christchurch, and motorsport still keeps him alive, along with his daily runs on the Port Hills of Christchurch.
Gives it the big flick as he comes towards the Hella hairpin. Trevor Crowe on the way to the downhill run. He would have been round that hairpin 1 or 2 times.
More than anybody else here, I suggest.
41.54 we hear Trevor's split at the hairpin. And let's see if he can improve. His best time, a 107.74 in the first run yesterday, then a 109. What will this one be? Well, Trevor's out of bed early this morning. A 105.95 for Trevor Crowe.
Well, a matter of interest, Grant, when he won in '85 in the start, his winning time was 104.69.
Wow. Well, he's done a 105.95. Perhaps he needs to get the starlet back out again.
Yes, indeed.
Right, getting towards the business end of the field now. Car number 6, the first of these two, I guess we could call them hybrid Mitsubishi Mirages, because they are Mirages but run Evo running gear. So you've got a light, compact, small car with Evo gear. Oh!
His launching wasn't as good as yesterday, Grant.
No, grabbed the wrong gear and had to go back and pluck it again. So Neil Webb, car 6 from Blenheim. And yes, Neil is a 2-time New Zealand hill climb champion, so he knows all about this type of event, and 2-time New Zealand Club Sport Championship as well. And there's actually a round of the, I think the North Island, the New Zealand Club Sport Championship on this weekend somewhere in the North Island, I do recall seeing. So he's competed 3 times here before. His best result was 3rd overall in 2016, 2 years ago. So the Mirage converted to take Evo 3 running gear, and there he is round the Hella hairpin, and on the downhill run now comes Neil Webb, car 6. Got down to a 102.69 yesterday. As we wait for him to come down to the finish line now, one more corner. At full noise, he comes, Neil Webb. Waiting for his time. 104.35, so yep, nearly 2 seconds, or just over 2 seconds slower than his best time yesterday.
And that was the gear change at the start, I suggest.
I suspect you did right, Lindsay. As we have the second of our hybrid Mitsubishi Mirages coming to the line, and this is Mike Tall from Christchurch, car number 5. He built this car himself 2 years ago. He's just said it needs more horsepower. In a course like this, that's what they always say, don't they? More power.
That's what this course is all about, is horsepower. Nothing else really. Nothing else matters.
So Mike began competing in circuit racing on 2 wheels, of course, before switching to 4 wheels. Oh, and an issue for Mike Tall. Something has given way, I think, on the start line. He's backing up now. Such a shame for Mike, who's put a great effort in this car. But it is the top 32 runoff, so if he can get back to the pits, his best time is a 102.04, so he's still got a time that will get him through to the next round. Let's hope they can repair whatever that might be.
As a gearbox issues, I'm suggesting he's just cruising down that hill without thinking of any revs or gear changes, so it could have been second gear that he might have stripped then.
So let's hope his crew can get that car back up and on song, ready for the top 32. Bad luck for Mike Tall, car number 5.
There he is.
And of course car number 4, Glenn Frew, rolled his car on the uphill part of the course yesterday, so he's no longer here.
And we have Hayden Paddon on the line now.
Yes, so Alistair McRae should have come beforehand, but Hayden Paddon has come to the line now, ready for his first attempt of the day. This is who you've all come to see, folks, so strap yourselves in. Wherever in the world you are, whether it be on course here in Ashley Forest, this is what you really have come to see. I'm sure that's sounding angrier than it did yesterday.
Oh, it's just pulling every inch of the way, isn't it? Every part of every gear change, that car's just pulling.
And Hayden must be enjoying the beautiful smooth roads here at Ashley Forest compared to the very rough conditions in the Acropolis Rally where he's been.
Turkey
Rally, sorry.
Some of the Acropolis all those years ago.
Yeah. Waiting for Hayden's split. 35.02 at the split. He did a 34.66 at the split yesterday, so slightly slower, but wait for the time. 56.58, so yes, a little bit slower than that time he did yesterday at 55.24, so a little bit slower at the hairpin, and that did result in a little bit slower on the downhill, but wow, he hasn't been, all his times under 57 with that record at 54.6, 8, I think the record stands at. He's certainly 54.96, so
set by Sloane Cox
I'm
last
sure he's
year,
got that
so
well in his sights.
Yeah, I'd say it's well in his grasp too.
So let's hope we have Alistair McRae coming, because that's another car that everyone's come here to see, the wonderful Subaru World Rally Car Impreza, previously driven and owned by the late Possum Bourne, and now is under the ownership of the Vantage Group, and great to see the car out here competing. Very few events that it does these days. Craig Vincent from Vantage has bought the car out of the workshop, and it's probably only 2 or 3 events it's done virtually since it's retired back here.
20-year-old car this.
It was last year's at the Leadfoot Festival in tarmac trim.
Alistair McRae, of course, has won the British Rally Championship, the Asia Pacific Rally Championship, and he had works drives with both Mitsubishi and Hyundai.
And this is his first attempt here at Ashley Forest. His best time yesterday in qualifying 2 round of 58.65. So just waiting for our next competitor to come to the line. And just while we wait for them to come, a special thanks to another one of our live streaming partners today, British Safety. Now if you'd like to go into their store between now and the end of September, mention the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint and you will get 15% off your new John Bull or Bloodstone footwear, and on top of that they will also give you a free gift with purchase. So a good offer there from the good folk at British Safety. They're at 591 Horswell Junction Road in Hornby, and they specialise in screen printing, monogramming, and they have a great range of safety clothing and gear as well. 7:30 to 5:30, pop into British Safety and get that 15% discount and your free gift with purchase. And here he is, Alistair McRae, to the start line. Alistair McRae getting ready for the launch. Alistair is away and off up the hill on his run here, his 3rd run today, over the weekend, 1st run today of course. He got to the hairpin in 36.73 yesterday on his fastest run. Fantastic pictures we look at as they head up towards the Halle hairpin, and let's watch him flick it around the tyres now. On the downhill run comes Alistair McRae. .37.01, so like Hayden, just a little bit slower at the hairpins this morning. Alistair McRae down the hill through the finish line. 58.91, so yep, 0.3 slower than yesterday, but pretty much on the money.
Yes, you wonder how much is left there. There will be a bit left in there for Alistair. They won't be showing all their cards yet, of course, but the smart money would be on Hayden, I suggest.
I think you're right there, Lindsay, absolutely,
yeah.
But you are right too. Of course, they won't want to be showing all their cards at the moment. They'll want that last little bit of horsepower out if they can get into the top 2, because that's the money round.
Yeah. Now, Sloane Cox had issues yesterday, and I'm hoping we are going to see him this morning. The current record holder here, Sloane Cox, who broke the record last year.
And It sounded like it was on. It dropped a cylinder when it went up the hill yesterday.
That's what it
sounded
seemed
like,
to, didn't it? Yes.
No confirmation of what was actually the issue with his car.
Just to remind you all that the record time round here set by Sloane Cox last year is a 55.13.
And it should be mentioned that he's been here 3 times. Second year he broke the 17-year-old record, of course. 3 times he broke that record last year. And that's his intention this year, is to try and break that record once again. He dropped it to a 54.96, as we mentioned. Will they get into 54s today? Here we go, Sloane Cox. Hasn't yet had a decent run in this car because did 2 103s yesterday with the issue to the car, so he's yet to show us the full potential of this Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8 Hill Climb Special. Interesting car, of course. It was originally built by Andrew Hawkswood to take over to contest the Pikes Peak Hill Climb in the USA. So it's a space frame built car, very light, very powerful. And of course, Sloane Cox is currently competing in the RX Academy, which is the World Rallycross Championship, and his last round was in Finland, which was round 4 of 5, one more back in Europe for Sloane Cox, after Ashley Forrest, of course. As he comes down to the finish line now, let's see what he can do. .57.42 for Sloane Cox, so here we are.
Yeah, he's there or thereabouts, isn't he?
So look at those top 3 times so far. Hayden the fastest at 55.24. Then Alistair McRae on a second run yesterday at 58.65. And Sloane Cox second at 57.42. And then Alistair McRae 58.65. So between 55 and 57.58 is the split on these top guys so far.
So we just turn the page and we go right back to the beginning again, because here we go with the last of our qualifying rounds, and it is Matt Sisson from Leaston in the little Starlet 1300, and there'll be no 56 lap times here.
Is this the class runoffs?
No, this is the qualifying, the last of the qualifiers.
Right, okay, here we go.
They go through the whole field again. For their 4th time.
They are.
Yeah. Well, according to my program, it is anyway.
Okay.
So after this run, we then go the 32s to 32, and we have the class runoffs, and then through the afternoon we're down to 16 to 8 to 4, and then the final.
So Matt Sisson from Leaston in the Toyota Starlet. Began competing 3 years ago, his 3rd time at Ashley Forrest Rally Sprint, also driving a Toyota Starlet in the 1301 to 1600cc class, so he's dropped down to the baby class, as we call it. Matt Sisson heading up towards the Hella hairpin. And of course these class competitors now are just trying to get a time to put them in the top 3 for class, so they can have their runoffs, which will be held during the elimination rounds when we get down to the 8s, 4s and 2s, I would imagine.
Yes, you've got to have some incentive for these guys to be here, and it's otherwise they wouldn't come probably, but it is fantastic that they have their own class, and knowing they're full well they're not going to be with the top group, but to have their own class makes it all worthwhile, and it's all very relevant and relative to rallying as we know it.
So Matt's best time was a 1:18.36 yesterday. Dropped it from a 1:19. Let's see what he can do this morning. Matt Sisson.
Oh, here we go. Not quite the same drama.
Yep.
Not quite the same drama as a couple of our competitors later on yesterday afternoon, but he's brought it around okay.
So just waiting for Matt to get the car fired up and off the course. Of course, Matt is one of those people driving in 2 cars during this event, so in fact I think his time of 1:18 I called was the better time he had in his other class, which I think would have been in the, I think that was in the open class. So let's see what Matt Sisson's time is. No, they can't, they're giving it a bit of a push. As we wait for our next 1300cc competitor to get on the start line, which should be Ewan Beattie from Levin in the Little Datsun Sunny. Does a mix of seal and gravel events, and competing here for the first time as Matt Sisson fires up the little starlet and heads off to the pits to tune it up to hopefully make sure he gets into the 1300cc runoff a little later today, with the top 3 heading off for honours, as indeed Matt Beattie in the Datsun Sunny from Levin comes to the start line.
And he's the first of 2 of our boys from the Hibiscus Coast, Horowhenua area of the Lower North Island, and it's great to see these guys have come down to North Canterbury for this event. No doubt they've watched it over the years on television, and like a lot of them have to come and have a go themselves, so it's great for them to be here.
It was a rather gentle Sunday morning effort off the start line.
Until he found the second gear, and he got a bit more angry, didn't he?
So Ewan's his first attempt at this hill climb course started off at a 1:28.35, got it down to a 1:22.75, and his last qualifying 3 run was a 1:17.69. So let's see what he can do in his 4th qualifying effort here today. And that time of 1:17.69, I would suggest has almost got him into the top 3. So he's going to probably need to do a 15 or a 14 ideally to get into the top 3 runoff for the 0 to 1300cc class. The fastest time recorded yesterday from John O'Taylor at a 1:14.71. Round the Hella hairpin comes Ewan Beattie in the little Datsun Sunny. Keeping it nice and tidy, nice and straight, and in the groove on the course as he brings the Nissan Sunny down to the final corner and the finish line. Let's listen for Ewan's time. .1:20.46. So he had a little bit of an issue, I think, in the course, up on the course, just where our picture. As we were waiting for him to come into the camera at the Hella hairpin. So here comes Tim Smith up to the start line in car number 60, and sitting in the beside Tim for this run is a lightweight. In fact, it's my grandson Sheridan King who's sitting beside Tim Smith. Sheridan was helping us out on the camera yesterday and has been one of our runners. So good luck to Tim Smith and Sheridan as they head up the hill in the Toyota Starlet KP61. And of course you'll see on the side of Tim's car, supported by the Magnum Group, again one of our live streaming sponsors. And just a quick mention, the Magnum Group have now 2 stores in Christchurch and a new location in Dunedin. They do automotive compliance specialists, import compliance, registrations on cars that have lapsed, inspections, project restoration vehicles, accident write-off re-inspections, motorsport compliance of course, and you can get all your warrant of fitness inspections, general servicing, repairs to all makes and models done with the Magnum Group in Christchurch. And in Dunedin, folks, good morning to our live streaming customers in Dunedin, because the Magnum Group store in Dunedin has the Grimebusters Grooming, Dunedin's best vehicle groomers. They also do lock-on tow bars and have the best tow bar deals in Dunedin, the Magnum Group. 2 locations in Christchurch and 1 in Dunedin as Tim Smith heads downhill now with Sheridan King beside him. They like to have these lightweight co-drivers, don't they?
Particularly in the little cars, it's very, very handy to have a lightweight co-driver.
So let's see what Tim can do. 1:16.57. So his best time has been a 1:16 even. So it seems like maybe the smaller cars are struggling a little bit to match their fastest times from yesterday at this stage.
Yeah, I perhaps think, Grant, that the start area is much more rutted than it was yesterday, and they always struggle to get off the line, don't they, the smaller cars? And I think that start area there is a lot more rutted, so they are having more difficulty, and therefore their times could be down a wee bit. I don't know, that's just a theory. It could be, but... I'd just like to acknowledge all the people that have tuned in yesterday from the various places around the world, Grant. We had people who had acknowledged that they were watching from as far as Maine in the USA through to Indonesia, India,
Wales.
Australia, Wales, and also my own family in Illinois in USA who were watching. And those two, my son and my daughter, both have had a lot of experience up here in the early days of Ashley Forest and know this place very, very well. So it's great that they can watch from that far away.
Indeed, good morning to you all. There's Murray Christopherson from Christchurch. Gets the little Suzuki Swift GTI around the hairpin and heading downhill, car number 59. Murray's best time was a 1:24.52. So let's see what Murray can do on his final qualifying run. $1:22.09. So there we are. After saying some of these smaller cars aren't going any quicker, Murray's just proved us wrong because he's done a 1:22.09. So that's it dropped nearly 3 seconds off his time. That's a good effort from Murray.
Yeah.
So Tony Coakley comes to the line from Motueka, and the little Fiat Uno, competing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint for the second time. Has competed in circuit racing and tarmac hill climbs. He's having a go at the gravel hill climb here, Rally Sprint. And away he goes. This is the one with the the second gear could do with being a little bit closer. Kentucky. So the only Fiat Uno in the field for Tony Coakley.
I don't think we've ever seen a Fiat Uno here, Grant, in all the years we've been coming.
No.
And as I said yesterday, a most unlikely looking motorsport car of any kind. But however, the name is Fiat.
We asked him if he'd done anything different to the car from how he normally runs it to prepare for Ashley Forest, and he said just put the fuel in and gave it a wash.
Yep. Put the fuel in and gave it a wash.
Tony Coakley now heading on the downhill part of the course. The little Fiat Uno. Multicoloured, it's green on one side. We've only seen the red side of the car.
It's the Italian national colours, isn't it? All over it.
Yeah, dead right there, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Well done. They probably have pizza in the pits as well.
Well, yes.
1:13. Ooh, 66. So that's a very good improvement.
It's an excellent time.
1:30. That's a very, very good improvement. Well, he got out of the right side of the bed this morning. Car 57 should be coming to the start line now, and we should have Gary Meacham from Rangiora in the Toyota Starlet, car 57.
The denture man from Rangiora. Rangiora Dental Clinic. Denture Clinic, actually, not Dental Clinic.
So hold on to your teeth, folks, because here goes Gary Meacham up the course in the Toyota Starlet, car number 57. He was third in class here 2 years ago. He's competed here for 8 times, and he just says he loves going up and down this course. Finished 6th in class at the recent Hamner Rally a few weeks ago. And we asked him if there's anything we should know about him, you or your car or your team. He said he's been doing it for far too long. But we enjoy having you here, Gary Meacham from Rangiora car 57, heading to the hairpin. On with the handbrake, round the corner, and down the hill comes Gary Meacham. 51.47 to the hairpin. Now Gary's best time so far has been a 1:21.79. Let's just see if he can improve on that one. Here he comes, safely negotiated the course for the 4th time. 1:21.04, so not quite a second off his best time, but still it is an improvement for Gary Meacham from Rangiora in the Toyota Starlet car 57. As Grant Littlejohn should be our next competitor coming to the line in his Holden Barina GTI. And the only thing he's done to his car for this event is, he says, put better tyres on.
Jeffrey?
And he says his best memory of Ashley Forrest was having a huge moment over the finish line last year. So let's hope he doesn't do that this time. Grant Littleton in the Holden Barina GTI from Timaru, heading up the course in his 2nd time here at the Ashley Forrest Rally Sprint.
Grant, how did you get over the dust from yesterday? Did you get home and get a hose down outside, did you?
I did indeed.
Yeah.
It shook everything off outside.
Yeah.
Added a bit more topsoil to the garden.
I was barred from entry.
I know that feeling. Stay at the door. Take your clothes off and then come to the shower.
That's right. I think our position today is slightly improved, so we won't have quite the same treatment when we get home tonight.
I fear not. He's around the hairpin, so safely on the uphill part of the course, and now on the downhill part comes Gary Littleton from Timaru, car number 56. His best time a 1:26.09, so he's definitely going to have to pull the finger, as they say, if he wants to make it into the top 3 runoff for the 0 to 1300cc class.
And we've got one of New Zealand's noted motorsport photographers hovering over our shoulder, Grant, and Jeff Ritter, and he's so used to dust, I think he just lives in a natural state of it being dusty.
Except when it's raining and muddy.
Morning, Jeff. How are you enjoying the event?
You right, Jeff?
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm about to take the walk up the hill, which I'm not looking forward to on a Sunday morning. Usually managed to blag a ride with the stewards in the morning and we walk down.
So you're a bit late today driving, Jeff, were you?
No, I'm a serious sparrow. I've been working.
Oh, he's been working, sorry.
Okay, to the start line comes Peter Merch.
He went halfway yesterday, Peter Merckx too, didn't he?
He did indeed. In fact, he's the one that we would expect to be in that runoff for the top 3. Pete did a best time of a 1:16.58, and it's he might need to get into the 15s to make sure that he's going to be in the runoff this afternoon.
Peter is one of those competitors, been around a long time, but never really done much rallying. It's always been club stuff, the hill climbs and the rally sprint here, of course, and sprints and that. So Yeah, he's. This is probably his favourite. Mind you, he lives just round the road. So, yeah.
And of course, this car, Lindsay, is the ex-Mike Tall Starlet. So of course, Mike Tall's built that hybrid Mitsubishi Mirage with the Evo running gear in. Of course, Mike didn't have a good takeoff today. Gearbox issues, we suspect, meant that he aborted his third qualifying run. But here comes Peter Murch in the ex-Mike Tall Toyota Starlet. Down the hill he comes towards the finish line, and let's just listen for Pete's time. See if he can do a 1:15.
Oh, he's struggling to slow that car down, and he made it just.
And he did do a 1:15.
Yes.
So good on you, Pete. Great effort. Well, those balls will be hovering around now to see who's going to make the top three, but I suspect that's not a bad time, a 1:15. Only one other competitor has done a 1:15 and a 1:14, so at this stage it may well put him into the top three runoff.
Yep, this is their last chance. This is their last chance to get into their finals, or the top 32, or indeed both.
And this is the man who is the pace setter in this class, and this is Jono Taylor with the Hayabusa powered car. So the Toyota Corolla comes from Waikuku.
It's actually, it sounds, I won't say strange or peculiar, but it sounds different to see a little Corolla like that with such a different sounding exhaust note, isn't it?
Indeed. The Corolla runs, of course, that motorcycle engine, the Hayabusa, and we talked yesterday about a lot of these cars, in fact, have sequential type gearboxes, and in fact this car does as well. It has a 6-speed sequential. So definitely it is the pace setter, and understandable in the 0 to 1300cc class. Jono Taylor with the Hayabusa powered car as he heads up towards the hairpin for his fourth qualifying run. He's done a 46 to the split. That is very, very quick. This will possibly be, I think he's going to get maybe even a high 13 on this one. So definitely the class favourite here at the Winmax brake pads, Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. As he comes down towards the finish line, Jono Taylor. Oh, no, 1:15.93. So quick to the hairpin, but he must have just lost a little bit on the downhill run. So not as quick as his best time of a 1:14.71, but pretty close, just over a second.
I would
in it.
Still suggest he's the favourite to take the class.
Absolutely.
But it just takes a little instant, as we all know, to prevent that. And people like Peter Murch are going to be right there.
And this man also wants to be right there and amongst the top three, Chris Herdman, who's been a top 1300cc competitor in local rallying, and also finished second in class at the recent Hamner Rally. So I suppose you would say Chris Herdman and Pete Murch, running more conventional engines in their cars, are the two that are going to be fighting off for the minor money, I would suspect.
Yeah, that's how it's shaping up, isn't it, really, that those two will, one of them will, the two of them, so there's nothing between them at all, is there?
No. So Chris's best time was a 1:16.48.
Yeah. And Peter's is what, a 1:15, late 1:15s just now.
Yes, a late 1:15.
Yeah.
So Chris is going to need to pull a 15 really if he wants to keep that competition close and alive as he heads towards the hairpin. Round the hairpin. And he's upgraded the gearbox to a TRD close ratio gearbox for this time. And he's won the class here for the last 2 years. So Chris Herdman in the Toyota Starlet from Rangiora.
I think his time is already good enough to make it to the top three for the final later on today. 1:15.36.
1:15.36, so yes, a very good time. So it's definitely the way it looks. So this morning they've all done 15s. Pete Murch, Jono Taylor and Chris Herdman. To think you're all within 1 second of each other.
Yeah. So therefore it's one mistake from each other too in the final, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Car number 52, Jason Clark, now comes to the start line. And this will be the first of the 1301 to 1600cc class runners. Jason Clark's best time of 1:18.95. And that's an angry looking starlet as well,
Yes.
Jason Clark.
It's powered by something different as well again, isn't it?
Certainly sounds like it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those
Oh, this is the other Hayabusa one, is it?
Hayabusa, I think,
you're
yeah.
right. Yep.
It certainly doesn't sell quite a started engine.
Okay.
Now we'll see what the time is for the colour here. Now the very similar time.
So the time they're chasing in this class, the fastest time that has been set on the weekend so far, is Jonty Brensel at a 1:14.30. And that is significantly faster than anybody else.
47.19 to the hammer here.
So he's made the hairpin successfully, and on the downhill run he comes now, Jason Clark.
And they'll negotiate the flower dipper, hotel.
Through the dipper and down towards the final corner and the finish line comes Jason Clark.
Here it comes through the timber car, finish line in the time of 1:14.56 for Jason.
1:14.56. Well, we said the 1:14 time was the one to go for, so he's done that. Jonty Brensel's fastest time of 1:14.30 and a 1:14.56. So just over 2/10 between them. And of course, Jason Clark is one of those drivers competing in two different cars this weekend. He's also in his Mitsubishi Lancer in the rally car class as well. Jason Clark from Havelock. As Michael Vaness from Christchurch lines up in his Toyota Levin, car number 51. And Michael's best time was a 1:19.18 yesterday. So to get into the top three class runoff, he is going to need to post a time either in the late 1:15s or low 1:15s, I suspect. So he's got to pull about 4 seconds out on this run.
He's 26 years old. He's 26 years of age. In this Toyota.
So he competed in rallycross before turning his hand to rallying, and the first time here competing at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint.
49.86 for Michael Veronese.
49.86 for Michael Veronese to the hairpin. And he's really going to need to do about a 42 at the hairpin if he wants to be in contention, I feel.
Now he's going through the Flower Hotel dipper.
Down towards the finish line comes Michael.
Finish line. Oh, he's clipped the apex there. See as he comes across the line. Time of 1:18.25.
1:18.25, so he has gone quicker, but I don't think that's going to be fast enough to be in the top three runoff for the 1301 to 1600cc competitors.
Next up is Raymond Wilkinson from Invercargill in his Toyota Torino. This is his first time here, but he's been around the Southland scene competing for many, many years.
And he says his best memory of Ashley Forest is watching it on television, because he hasn't competed here before. And like a lot of people who got to know this event through the 80s when it was, and the 90s when it was covered live on television by Television New Zealand. The last time it was broadcast in any live format was 1993. So a huge thanks to the Momac team for pulling this event together and taking it live to punters all around the world this weekend. Raymond Wilkinson in the Toyota Torino heads up towards the hairpin for the first time. Just checking time, Raymond's best time so far, a 1:26.74. So fairly standard rally edition of the Toyota Torino for Raymond Wilkinson. Didn't do anything special for this event, just like a couple of our other competitors. Cleaned it, put tyres on it, fueled it up and turned up today. Started rallying in 1992, did Raymond?
So this should be about 118.
So looks like he might be heading to about a 118, which would be a huge improvement on his time. $1:18.01. So taking nearly 8 seconds, over 7 seconds off your time. That's a great effort for Raymond Wilkinson.
That's an incredible effort. He must be a very quick learner.
As coming up to the start line now is the green Toyota Starlet of our class pace setter so far. This is Jonty Brensel from
the Blenheim area, Marlborough,
yes.
And he's associated with the Owen brothers up there, and the Owen brothers are well known nationwide for their exploits in racing, rallying, and sense of humour.
Yeah. And of course, Jonty co-drives for the Owen brothers in their Mitsubishi Lancer Evo on rally events, so he must be taking a few notes from the Owen boys, and he's doing a great job on his first time here at Ashley Forest, because he is the class leader to date with a 1:14.30. Jonty Brensel heading towards the Hella hairpin.
And the Owen boys will argue which one of them taught him everything.
Exactly. And his best Ashley Forest rally memory, in fact, for Jonty Brensel is sitting beside Richard Bateman. The first time that Richard Bateman did a 1-minute run here at Ashley Forest. Down the hill comes Jonty Brensel. Can he shave any more time off his fastest already of a 1:14.30? $1:14.15. He has gone quicker. 1:14.15. That is really a class-setting time for Jonty Brensel in the Toyota Starlet. As we wait for our next car to come to the start line, which is another of our live streaming sponsor partners, this is Shane McKenzie in his Carter's Tyre service Toyota Starlet. Of course, Carter's Tyres have 2 stores here in Rangiora, High Street Rangiora, for all your car needs, and a truck and commercial division which is based at Flaxton Road here in Rangiora. Carter's Tyres, one of our live streaming sponsors, and Shane McKenzie, who has been in the top 3 of this class so far. Shane's best time, a 1:16.69. He's going to need to get into the 15s, I feel, if he wants to make sure he's up with Jonty Brensel for the top 3 runoff a little later on today for this class runoff. As we mentioned, the 0 to 1300cc class cars, top 3 runoff for overall honours, and likewise for this class as well, the 1301 to 1600cc class, as Shane heads up towards the Hella hairpin. And we'd just like to say a very good morning and thank you to Wild Trailers, who have built the most amazing horse floats, absolute quality, safety, technology and style in these horse float trailers, which is our live streaming base here for the commentating and also for the production crew here. So thank you to Wild Trailers, a magnificent trailer. It's in the spectator area, so come and have a nosy. And if horses are your game, this is the trailer you need to have a look at. Wild Trailers, thank you for providing us with such a fine home for the 2 days here. We are at the Winmax Brake Pads Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. 1:16.23 for Shane McKenzie, so he has gone a little bit quicker. Will it be fast enough to make the top 3 run-off?
That was a very honest run, you'd say, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
Yeah. I felt he struggled a bit in second gear there, seemed to get bogged down, but he recovered it very, very well.
And with Jason Clark now posting that 1:14, Shane's in fact in danger of maybe not making the run-off as Taylor Judd comes to the line in his Magnum supported Toyota.
Yep, another generation of rallying with Jeff Judd's son, now old enough to do this.
And Taylor was really the surprise of this class in the 3rd qualifying run yesterday. He spun in his very first attempt up the hill and only recorded a 1:34. Then he got down to business with a 1:19.99, dropped that to a staggering 1:15.70 to be the 2nd fastest in class. But he's going to need to pull another second off that if he wants to join Jonty Brensel and give him a run for his money as he heads down the course now.
He's doing a half decent job.
Taylor Judd, he does indeed.
As he gets up to the hairpin. Bit wide. That'll cost a bit.
Yeah, 47.26, and he got to the hairpin yesterday in a 42. Or maybe, sorry, 47 maybe. So, not too far away. Let's see how brave he is coming down the hill. Taylor Judd. A good save there for Taylor Judd as he comes to the line.
See the whole family on this, watching from the vantage point here right in front of us, so their hearts will be in their mouths then.
A 1:15, I think it was 2:3 I heard for Taylor Judd, so he has gone a little bit quicker. So you just know how fast they are really trying on the downhill run, don't you, when they get it all crossed up coming out the finish line.
They've been trying very hard, haven't they, coming downhill?
Because I guess in these smaller powered cars, you're not going to make too much more on the uphill. It's going to be how brave you are on the downhill.
Yeah, if you can put it both together, you're on the button, aren't you?
Yep. As Matt Sisson, here's a second, of course Matt was in the 1300cc class. Here he is back for another run in the 1301 1600cc class in his Toyota Starlet. And he's competed here twice before, has Matt Sisson, making the top 32 shootout in the first year that he came here was his best memory. Getting any smaller powered car into the top 33 is always a great effort. So Matt Sisson from Christchurch in the Toyota Starlet. He's been competing for 3 years and the 3rd time here, as we mentioned, at Ashley Forest. Matt Sisson.
Oh, he's in trouble. He's in trouble.
He's in trouble. So...
Oh dear. Oh dear. He's done a 360 and he's got the front of the car. He's trying to get it out, I think. Yes, he is, but I don't think
he's bogged.
He's bogged there. No, he's going nowhere there.
So that will be Matt Sisson out of the competition because the best time he's managed to record in his qualifying run so far has been a 1:18, so that won't be good enough to make it into the top 3.
They're getting out of the car now.
So
it looks like he's gotten stuck. That'll be the end of his run for Matt Sisson.
End of the run indeed for Matt Sisson. So just while we wait for Matt to be extricated off the course, we will give you a little bit of information about our overall Ashley Forest Rally Sprint sponsors for this year, which is Winmax brake pads. Winmax brake pads are a Japanese brake pads, one of the leading brake products in the world, used by the Hyundai World Rally team and also in the R5, many of the R5 teams as well. also a lot of the GT racing teams around the world. So they've come to New Zealand, Winmax brake pads, courtesy of Hayden Paddon, who's using them on his car, used in the AP4 car that he uses in the New Zealand Rally Championship, and of course the car here that is so far the trendsetter here on the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint course this weekend. Now over 30 New Zealand rally competitors are using the Winmax pads, and just contact Paddon Rallysport if you'd like to add those brake pads to your car to make them stop better, faster, stronger. One of the best brake pads on the market for performance, driver feel, durability and for lower brake temperatures. Because of our direct partnership with the factory, Hayden says they're able to offer brake pads at very good prices here, much cheaper than anything else that is comparable. Winmax brake pads are the overall naming sponsors for the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint this year, and also one of our live streaming partners, Winmax brake pads. As we see the flat tray up the course waiting to load Matt Sisson's car on board, bring it back down the hill to the pits once again, and then we can open the course, clear the course and get our next competitor on the course, which should then be
Richard Bateman is our next one.
Richard Bateman, of course, also competing in 2 different vehicles here at Ashley Forest, driving the Mitsubishi Evo 9 as well as his Toyota Starlet, which is 1340cc, so has to move up from the baby class into the 1301 1600cc class. So, as we expected, Lindsay, an even bigger crowd coming into the elimination money day here of the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint.
The crowd situation and crowd numbers look comparable to what they were in the early 80s when this was in its infancy, but also an incredible heyday then as well. The numbers we've seen go up the hill both yesterday and today is incredible. It's great. It's actually fantastic, and it's what the event deserves and what the club deserves too.
And they didn't need to put Matt Sisson's car on the trailer; they just needed to tow him out of the rough stuff, and he's fired it up and is just driving back down the hill for Matt Sisson. So we just wait now for Richard Bateman to come to the line to have his 4th qualifying run today. If you just joined our live streaming coverage, of course, 4 qualifying runs to set a time which will then put you into the top 32, the first of the elimination rounds that continually get halved as the day goes on, 32 to 16 to 8 to 4 to the final 2. And of course, for these class competitors, all they want to do is get into the top 3 runoff to try and take class honours here on this Rally Sprint course that was first contested back in 1979, but Lindsay, not on this course as we see today.
No, it was contested on the uphill section coming downhill and going back further from Mount Grey Road. Similar distance, around 1.7k, and that's how it first started, and it was pioneered by a Raytec club member called Tony Booth. It was his brainchild. He put it together, and he got the key entry there was Steve Millen in a work Chevette, a semi-work Chevette, and Steve won it. And then over the winter period, Tony and a few of us who I was involved as well saw the loop, and this was just so obvious. And Tony went the next step further and went to Wellington to Television New Zealand and went there and convinced them that they should come and televise this, and they did, and they paid the club $40,000 for the privilege to do so. And really, if it wasn't for Tony Booth, this event would not have happened, I don't believe. He did a wonderful job, and put his own money on the line as well in that second year when television were here. So yeah, it's got a great history. The television history is a very mixed one, as you know. It was Dunlop Rally Sprint for many years, and of course Dunlop paid for the television rights then, and then it all changed again. So yeah,
and how things completely turned around, because the last time it was televised live in 1993, the club had to turn around and raise $40,000 to pay for it. So a complete turnaround.
In the space of 13 years, it had gone from we pay you 40,000 to you pay us 40,000. I don't know how that equates actually. However.
And thanks to all our volunteers on the Momac crew, we're managing to do this at a fraction of the cost.
Well, yeah, and that brings up another story, doesn't it? It's the way of the future, I suggest, and I think this is absolutely magnificent. And the feedback that we've got from around the world is just quite staggering, isn't it?
It is indeed.
What we've got, and I do congratulate Ryan and his crew at Momac here. The boys here have done a wonderful job, and I've read a lot about how this technology is working too, and I've seen these a camera like mine out in a tripod taking these wonderful photographs. I can't believe it.
Exactly. The wonders of technology and what we've been able to, or what the Momac crew have been able to achieve. And I think this is certainly one of the first events that's been attempted by multi-camera shoots with Wi-Fi coverage. And so that might sound reasonably easy, but when you come to an event like this and a location like this where you've got so many trees, to try and get Wi-Fi coverage for all those cameras around the course, and of course that's why part of the course is in a blind spot, because there just is no coverage. And unless you were back in the television cable days of joining your TV cameras together, just not possible to do the entire course. But we certainly are getting fantastic pictures of most of the course, and incredible to see this technology taking the pictures to New Zealand and around the world today, as Richard Bateman comes to the line in his Hayabusa powered Toyota Starlet, car number 45. Richard Bateman heading off the start line, and
a very angry sounding Toyota Starlet with a 1340cc horse engine. I'm not sure what it is, but it sounds very non-Toyota, doesn't it?
Indeed, and this will be the last runner in this class. Richard Bateman, his best time a 1:17.56. But yes, he's going to need to get into the high 14s if he wants to be in the class runoff, because we've got a 1:14.15 from Jonty Brensel. Next fastest time is Jason Clark at a 1:14.56. So yes, they've got to get into the 1:14s if he wants to have the opportunity to race off in the top three final later on today. So he'll be giving it plenty as he comes down the hill to try and shave 3 or 4 seconds off his time as he comes towards the finish line. Let's see if he can do that.
He's not stopping in a hurry either, is he? Well controlled.
Yeah, we just missed the time with the crowd applauding, but I think that's the fastest time in the class.
By the reaction of the people in front of us here, I think that was the quickest time in the class.
I thought they said a 1:11, but I'm not sure.
So did I. 1:11.40 I thought it was said.
So, crikeys, if that is the time, then definitely Bronte Jensel and Jason Clark are going to have to find 3 seconds on their time if they want to take away class honours here this year. So maybe he's just been boxing a little bit.
So next we had the wonderful 240 RS replica, and the 240 RS was a Group B car back in the early 80s, and when Nissan did the WRC, and we do recall seeing the Nissan 240 RS here, and in fact for the local level Reg Cook had one, Tony Teasdale competed in them too. Yeah, and you were saying yesterday, Grant, we do recall like Shaker Meta winning East African Safari in the 240 RS. He was a Nissan driver, of course.
Timo Salonen drove.
Timo Salonen, yeah. Timo Salonen, I think he must have, but I recall Timo Salonen more in the Stanza.
Right.
And Timo won here in 1980 in the Stanza, which is the South Island round. Well, it was the WRC, the only. not the only one. The third one we had in the South Island, that was the stands that Timo Salonen ran.
And of course Jim Tennant is also driving 2 cars here today, this Nissan 240 RS, and also he competes in a Toyota Altezza. Jim started rallying in 1979 in a Vauxhall Chevette. Now 79 and Vauxhall Chevettes ring a bit of a bell on this event.
Well, they do, because the first event was Steve Millen in the Vauxhall Chevette, the 2.3 twin cam, and the Chevette with Millen, and then Barry Robinson in the black Chevettes, very colourful Barry Robinson, good mate of mine from Southland. He was been a finalist here, so the Chevette has got a good name in this event as well.
So Jim Tennant's done a 1:16 in the Nissan 240 RS, so that's his fastest time in that car this weekend. And the next car in this class, which is for historic 2-wheel drive cars, and certainly history shows that the Mazda RX-7 has been a very competitive car. Nothing like those tall gears to get them off the start line in the Mazda RX-7s. That's why they were such a good rally sprinting and hill climb car.
Yeah, they were. Days of Neil Allport, I think, would be the name that most people remember from the RX-7s, but also Rod Millen here. The first car to go under the minute was Rod Millen in his RX-7. I think it was converted to 4-wheel drive. He converted to 4-wheel drive, and that was quite phenomenal then to have done that. That's right. That was a forerunner to being pretty standard with the 4-wheel drive that Subaru did.
And of course, the most famous 2-wheel drive Mazda RX-7 to get around this course was the one that Kim Austin drove in the Sovereign Freight colours. Yes. Which is now owned by Wade Henshaw and looks as splendid as it ever did in Sovereign Freight colours. And with the Mazdas, of course, the first event on this course in 1980 won by John Wolfe in an RX-3, and the RX-3s were very much a popular rally car in the early days. The BDA Escorts along with the RX-3s were the rally car. 1:11.94 for Phil Walker in the Mazda RX-7. Not his best time, 2 seconds away from the fastest he's done on this course this weekend, which was in qualifying 3 when he did a 1:09.87, and that was a shade slower than the fastest Mazda RX-7, which is coming up to the line now, and in fact is the pace setter of. It's coming shortly. We've got Derek Asen on the line now. So Derek Asen in the Ford Escort from Gore.
We were just talking yesterday, Grant. Escorts are still, whilst old, there are a lot of these BDA Escorts around and rallying, particularly in the South Island, and this was the only one here this year.
And of course, the events like the Otago International Classic Rally sees numerous BDA Escorts come out of the woodwork, and still a hard car to beat.
Oh, there was probably half a dozen of them down there this year. Wonderful cars. The sound of the BDA, everyone still goes into raptures over it. It's probably the best sounding rally car that ever been built.
And around the hairpin goes Derek Asen in the Ford Escort. He's got a new Holbay 2.4 litre engine in the car for this event. And his best rally memory of Ashley Forest for Derek Asen was Barry Robinson competing in his Chevette. Now there's another famous car from the hill climbing days of past.
And I know Barry is watching this coverage, Grant, because he rang me last night.
So Derek has improved his time. I think he's done another 1:09, so that's going to put him in the class runoff for sure. But here, as we mentioned, coming to the line now is the fastest of these historic cars, and this is Bert Murray in the sister car to Rod Millen's Mazda RX-7, painted in exactly the same livery. And he set up an incredible time in this car yesterday to do a 1:07.50. Bert Murray. And the way that squatted down in the back and took off, I suggest is the start line's probably got a much deeper hole in it now than it had just before.
And that's why those, little starlets in the 300 class, I think, were struggling this morning.
Yes. So Bert Murray from Waimate, a former Central Region champion. He won the 2006 New Zealand Classic Rally Championship in his Mazda RX-7. This is the ex-Richard Kelsey RX-7, which is the sister car to Rod Millen's RX-7, as we mentioned. But Bert Murray was the owner, and I guess he still is the owner, of the famous main freight Mazda that was competed for or driven for so many years by Neil Illport, with huge success in New Zealand.
I think Neil won his first New Zealand championship in the RX-7.
He did indeed. He also took that same car to First New Zealander in one of the Rally of New Zealand's as well. So down to the finish line comes Bert Murray. Let's see what he can do. (1:08.16), so just over 6/10 slower than he did yesterday. Did a 1:07.50. A 1:08.16 is still the fastest time in that class. So definitely Bert Murray, the pace setter in the historic two-wheel drive cars, competing here at the Winmax brake pads, Ashley Forest Rally Sprint 2018. As we come to the next class of cars,
Actually, car number 38, which is Gavin Reid from Invercargill, in a very unlikely looking rally car in the form of a 6-cylinder BMW 328. But for all what we were talking about yesterday, being a difficult car to handle in these conditions, he put him some pretty respectable times, Grant, did he not?
He did. He got down to a 1:14.42, which for this class, which is open two-wheel drive, I think this class is, and that is not a bad time. Probably this may have been the fastest or second fastest. And it's very close to Paul Mullen's time yesterday from Leaston in the Datsun 1200. So Gavin Reid.
You'd almost, if you're picking a driver of the race, so to speak, he was almost my driver of the day yesterday. It's his first time here, and in a car like that, he puts in times what he did. It was a great day for him yesterday.
Absolutely. He started off at a 1:18.78, so to drop over 4 seconds already on that time. Let's see if he can drop it even further on his fourth and final qualifying run. And he has dropped the time.
1:13.02. That is a credible time for that car.
Now we have a very colourful character coming up.
Coming up to the line now, we should have Jeff Coombe. And we've talked a lot about Jeff Coombe from Amberley, of course, and his Suzuki Ignis. Talked a lot about this car yesterday, so it's far from your average Suzuki Ignis, that's for sure. Painted in Suzuki yellow, but this car was in fact built up by Rally Art and Ron McMillan for the New Zealand Rally Class 0 to 2000 cc, and plenty of a little bit of trick gear in this car for Jeff Coombe from Amberley, car 37, getting ready for his fourth and final qualifying run up the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint course on this beautiful sunny Sunday here in North Canterbury. Jeff got down to a 1:15.73 yesterday. As the little Suzuki heads up the line towards the Hella hairpin.
yesterday. The quickest of his day was 1:15.73. It was only 6th quickest in class. 47.16 to the split.
So yesterday he did a 47.16 up to the split. We're just waiting to see if we can hear his split time today. Started off at a 1:21.05 on his first sighting run here and dropped it to a 1:15.73. What can he do on this run? Jeff Coombe from Amberley.
Of course, these little circuit engines more suited to the long distance rallies than a Rallysport.
So waiting for Jeff to come on the downhill run now. The little yellow Suzuki Ignis. And here he comes towards the finish line. Round the finish line. $1:15.58. So nearly another 2/10 knocked off his best time from yesterday. Jeff Coombe 1:15.58. And if Paul Mullen manages to, well, he's already got a faster time, so may or may not make the run-off in class with a 1:15.58 for Jeff Coombe, but here comes.
And we're talking about unlikely rally cars in the BMW 328. Now this one is perhaps more so.
Indeed.
A Holden Commodore.
Well, the Yogi normally sits on the driver's seat. Can't see with the helmet whether it's Yogi Bear or not, but there we go, off they go. The big Holden heads up the course. Of course, the only other time I recall a Holden Commodore competing in any rally of significance in New Zealand was the Holden Commodore that one of our Australian competitors brought over for the classic Otago rally.
In the early days we had Monaros.
Okay.
In the very early days we had Monaros. So Steve Bapst from Kaiapoi in his 5-litre Commodore. He's been in this event before, so it's not new to him to be in this event, and good on him. If he loves doing it, having a skid, so to speak, in a V8 Commodore, and go for it.
She'll be a handful getting that one round the hairpin, but he's done it.
He's done it
on the
very
downhill
well.
run. So just slow improvements for Steve. He started off at a 21.98 and got down to a 20.09. So if he can break the 20s, I guess he'll be pretty happy with that in the big Commodore. Down the hill he comes. Just waiting for him to cross the finish line. Here he goes, and listen to the sign time for the big Holden. Well, he'll be very happy with that. A 1:16.83. So just over 3 seconds faster than he's been before in the big Holden Commodore. So he's put a new gearbox and a new diff in the car for this event. He's been here 3 times before, has Steve, and that's a good effort to get that car down to a 1:16.83.
I think it's a phenomenal run, that sort of time.
Up to the start line now comes Paul Mullen from Leaston and the Datsun 1200 with the big wing on the back. This car's got a 1.8 litre Nissan CA18 engine under the bonnet. Last competed here in 2014, and this is the man who was the pace setter in this class, or he was, until Gavin Reid popped in a 1:13.02. Paul was the first one to get into the 1:14s yesterday. 1:14.44 has been his previous best. And Paul will need to improve on that to make sure that he gets into the runoff for their class runoff a little later today. Paul Mullen from Leaston heads up towards the Hella hairpin. So far, so good. Paul Mullen, safely around the hairpin and on the downhill run of the course now. So people saying he might be a 12 or a 13 on this one, so that will be another improvement. 1:11.15. So yep, he's really putting it into. Indeed, 1:11.15.
One got the impression that he won't get much more out of that car than he was giving it then. I think that was absolute. That could be one of its best he'll ever do up there. That was an incredible run by that car.
And Paul Tennant back, the 240 RS man, back with his Toyota Altessa now to see what he can do. He did a 1:15.60 yesterday in qualifying 3. Jim Tennant heads the Toyota Altessa up the course.
Never saw Altessas in rally cars. They always looked cars that could be capable of good competition, but they've never really been a competition car at all, have they, the Altessa?
No, they did they have a couple in the New Zealand Touring Car Championship,
yeah, they did.
Didn't they?
Yeah, but they were disappointments, really.
Were,
and in rallying, no, they never. I've never really don't even recall an Altessa rallying at all.
No, neither. So that's what we like about this event: the unique cars that come out that you don't normally see. Round the hairpin comes Jim Tennant in the Altessa this time. Heading down towards the finish line, down through the dipper. So here he comes down to the finish line now, Jim Tennant. $1:11.01, so another big improvement there for Jim Tennant today.
Very handy time.
Yep. So just over 5 seconds quicker, which is quite a lot of time on a course of this length.
It's a 1.7k, that's all it is.
That's right. Shane Mackay from Otaki.
The second one from the east coast up there, or sorry, the west coast of Hibiscus Coast and near Wellington and Horowhenua area.
So Shane's best time is a 1:14.60, and of course people thinking a Subaru Impreza heading up the course, it must be a 4-wheel drive machine, but in fact no, this is in the unlimited open 2-wheel drive class. So a 1:14.60 with an 11 and a 13 popped in two 1:11s now. He's going to have to do a 1:11 if he wants to stay in the unlimited runoff for the top 3 fastest cars this afternoon. So he needs to look for over 3 seconds improvement as he comes on the downhill run course now. So just heard that he's a second slower to the top of the hill in the Toyota Altessa. So let's see if Shane can make a 1:11.32. So there we are, 3 of them in the 1:11s now. But of course in the open 2-wheel drive class they've got to get down to try and match Chris Hayes, who holds the record here at a 1:02 and has already done a 1:04. So I think that's game, set, match to Chris Hayes. It's really the runoff for second and third places now.
Yeah,
so on those times now, we would suspect the other 2 so far going to be Jim Tennant at a 1:11.01 and Jeff Coombs at a 1:11.15.
And we have Chris Hay now on the line. Chris Hay is the record holder in this class, and this beautiful little MR2, a car that he's built himself just over the years, just improved it. It's Nissan powered, and he's been coming around here for a long time. As Chris Hay, he was with Barry Robinson's crew back in the early 80s, one of the boys there. Curly's his name. You wouldn't think so, but so he knows this course very well.
We talked about this car yesterday as being an evolution of itself, that over the years he's just continued to improve, put more go-fast bits on it, bit more Kiwi ingenuity and technology. I wonder if he's got those sprayers working, because he can spray water on the back of the cooler, and he had that going last year, but that's probably what he does when he starts to set those times, getting down to the 1:02s, I would suggest. But here he goes, up to the hairpin. And the great thing about these MR2s, being mid-engined, they're such a well-balanced car, and he's done a magnificent job of building and preparing this car to be the class standout that it is. Chris Hay.
This is his Grand Prix for the year.
In fact, he's been the fastest two-wheel drive here 10 times. So 1:04.90 for Chris Hay. 3/10 slower than his fastest time yesterday, but clearly ahead of the field, and I suspect he knows that he was going to put his best effort in when it comes to the final one-off this afternoon.
He's certainly qualified, so
well and truly.
Yeah. So the dear old Legacy on the line now.
So into the next class we go now, and this is the four-wheel drive rally car class. And Richard Clark from Invercargill, the first of our rally car class four-wheel drive competitors, the Subaru Legacy.
Well, he's also competed in the 2010 Subaru Leon. The sort of step up from the Subaru Leon to the Subaru Legacy is I think one of the first drivers of the Subaru Leon.
So Richard Clark in the Subaru Legacy. He last competed in Southland Hill Climb event in May, so Richard hasn't done a lot of miles in this car, but brought it out to compete here at the Winmax Brakes Ashley Forest Rally Sprint.
As we were saying before, the Legacy was a revelation when it came out, and of course Possenborn was the one that had been the Subaru man in New Zealand and was a great loyal servant, and Poston won his first New Zealand championship in a Legacy, his only New Zealand championship actually.
Yes, indeed.
And then Joe McAndrew became the noted Subaru Legacy man, and he won 3 championships. And the Legacy, before the Impreza, became the flagship of Subaru rallying.
So Richard Clark comes down towards the finish line. His best time of a 1:19.17 yesterday in qualifying 3. So, just waiting for Richard's time. I don't think Richard's going to make it through to the top 32. We talked about a sort of a 13 or 14, maybe even get a wee bit lower than that now.
Yeah.
So here comes Michael Tom to the line. Now this is the car that Michael Tom is sharing with Sheldon Bell, the owner of the car, and they share this car on most rally events. One does one stage, one drives the next one, and they alternate around and both compete at rally sprints and hill climbs in this car together. Michael Tom, of course, a former New Zealand V8 touring car competitor for 16 years, and this is the ex-Todd Borden, Chris Barnes and Sloane Cox Evo 1. And talking about drives of the event yesterday, in fact Sheldon Bell, who'll be driving this car a bit later, had a bit of a whoops as he came through the finish line yesterday, but set a time of 1:02.96, was absolutely astonishing, because that was just a tenth of a second behind Matt Summerfield. So for Sheldon Bell, with such limited experience, I thought that was an absolute cracker of a time for Sheldon yesterday. Michael Tom's best time in the same car was a 1:11.33, so he'll be wanting to try and get into maybe the single digits. Will be a great effort for Michael Tom. Well, 1:07.43, so Michael Tom has done that, dropped into the single digits, a 1:07.43, and to improve from the beginning of a 1:11.85. That's a good job for Michael Tom, and the car is all in one piece and in good order to hand over to Sheldon Bell for his attempt at the four-wheel drive rally car class, as this rather large field in this category. And Sheldon will be running a little later down the field. But next up to the line now, we should have Sam Gardner from Woodend and the Subaru Legacy RSR, car number 29. First time here at Ashley Forest for Sam Gardner. The last event he competed in was the Cloudy Bay Street Sprint, in which he got 6th overall. So Sam Gardner from Woodend, who has recorded a best time on the Ashley Forest Hill course here of a 1:10.39 in his third qualifying run, and that was nearly 6 seconds faster than his first run of the day. So if he can keep improving, he may be down into the single digits as well. Up to the hairpin and onto the downhill course now comes Sam Gardner. So down to the finish line comes Sam Gardner. So there's his time, 1:10.14 for Sam Gardner. So a slight improvement on his qualifying 3 time of 1:10.39. As our former ATV quad bike competitor, now rally competitor, Craig Cox, car 28, comes to the start line.
He must feel a bit safer being in the car than on those quad bikes. Man, those guys are loopy, I reckon.
Almost as good as being a sidecar passenger.
Yeah, you're right. It's in the same mould.
For the brave and not faint-hearted.
Well, loopy or brave, or a combination of both, probably.
The Mitsubishi Evo 2 heads up towards the Hella hairpin. Craig Cox, whose best time was a 1:08.46 in qualifying 3. Can he drop that time even further? But I would think to get into the top 3 runoff in the rally car class, you're going to have to do a 1:02. So a big ask for Craig Cox to pull 8 or 9 seconds off his time to get down to be in the final this afternoon. Round the Hella hairpin, and on the downhill run comes Craig Cox, car 28, the Mitsubishi Evo 2. He has improved to the hairpin on his previous best split time, so let's see what that translates as he comes to the final corner and the finish line here for the Winmax Brakes Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. 1:05.91, so another good improvement. He keeps chipping away, but won't be good enough to make the top runoff in this class, but he will make the top 32. So Nigel Lawson now comes to the start line in car number 27 from Ellington, the Mitsubishi Lancer. been a navigator for 20 years.
That's his first time here, so yeah, changing seats.
So a brand new car for Nigel Lawson. He's only done 2 sprints so far before, just club events, 2 sports car, Otago sports car club events. As we mentioned, been a co-driver for 20 years in South Island events for a number of different drivers, and now he enjoys doing some skids for himself, he says. So good on you, Nigel. 20 years of calling notes and instructions, and now you've got the steering wheel. His 3rd ever event for Nigel Lawson. Got down to a 1:13.80. Let's see if he too can get into the single digits today. Around the Hella hairpin and on the downhill run comes Nigel Lawson. So at the splits they tell us a very similar pace, so maybe not too big of an improvement for Nigel. And across the finish line comes Nigel Lawson. 1:12.23. So the 12.23, they're talking that might be might not even be enough to get in the top 32. So no, we were talking 13,
we were
maybe
13s,
12s.
We started off at 14s,
yeah,
we're now down to 12s now. Yes.
Car number 26, the sole Toyota Celica GT4 that competes in the South Island, and one of the very few that competes in New Zealand full stop, I would suggest, for Willie Hawes.
A prominent rally car on the world stage in the early 90s, and Carlos Sainz won here in 92 in New Zealand. But we haven't seen many here at all, have we?
No.
Really?
No. The Toyota Celica is very successful for Toyota Team Europe, of course, until they got caught for doing naughty things with their turbocharger, and they were banned.
That's what they did too.
So being an open event here that has no rules and no... maybe Willie should have given them a call to find out what that secret piece they had in the turbo was.
Yeah.
But Willie Hawes, the car in, of course, a very similar livery design to the TTE cars, but just with a different colour scheme. He uses black, orange and green, where of course the TTE cars were in the traditional white, red and green, but exactly the same livery. So we just wait for Willie to come through the finish line. His best time has been a 1:06.77. 1:06.54, so he's gone quicker, and that will be good enough to get into the top 32.
We've just got some people who've called in to say hello from various parts. I just want to mention a few of them, and one is talking about Tony Booth, who is this is his brainchild. Tony Booth from Brisbane, Australia, who's watching. And Tony, we do recognise you, and great that you are able to watch what is your event. Some good names here we know in the form of Ben Hunt, Paul Russ, Alan Graves, Andrew Henry from Withcott in Queensland, Paul Johnson from Whitianga, Brad Collier from Hamilton, and Darren Johnson. So great you guys are all watching us here at the Ashley Forest.
As Scott Jones heads up the course for his 4th and final qualifying run, car number 25. Scott comes from Pleasant Point and the Mitsubishi Evo 8. He's got 650 horsepower in this car, so he's got plenty of boogie, and that's probably why he did a 1:04.53 in his best time to date in qualifying 3. He's been here 6 times before, and his best memory was in 2006 when he did when they had a 1:01. 39.96. So that's anyone who gets under 40 seconds to the hairpin is good to go, certainly in the top 32 and probably into the top 16.
Yeah.
So Scott Jones flying down to the flying finish. (1:04.06). So almost a second quicker for Sam Hurley. Sorry, for Scott Jones, I beg your pardon. So half a second quicker for Scott Jones, as Sam Hurley is our next competitor from Rangiora, coming to the start line in his Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. Started rallying in 2011 in a rear-wheel drive Toyota Starlet. He upgraded to this Evo 4 years ago.
Yeah, he's doing things the right way. In our book, Grant,
So
by starting
Jones,
off in the 1300 class, and now he's into the one of the older Evos, but nevertheless, those early Evos, as we've said many times, are great. Were great rally cars.
And this, in fact, is the Evo I mentioned, had 640 horsepower. It is actually Scott James. So that was our previous car. Yeah, Sam Hurley, car number 24 from Rangiora. 6th overall is his best result here at Ashley Forest. So he's been in the top 10. Started rallying in 2011 in the Toyota Starlet, as we mentioned, and now into the 4-wheel drives, the Mitsubishi Evo 3. So Sam Hurley's best time, a 1:12, and it's the sort of time that he's going to need to do a bit faster if he wants to be into the top 32. (108.70), so a very, very good improvement for Sam Hurley.
I was saying yesterday about the dipper, and everyone refers to the dipper and what it's always been known as, but there's a left-hander before that is has been ignored now, and it was referred to as Jennings, because a guy called Mark Jennings from Wellington had an accident there in the early days in his VDA. Now, I'd like someone to confirm this, because it was always called Jennings after that, but it's just dropped away from the scene. So we might have to introduce it, Grant. I think.
I think so. Yeah. Jennings Corner.
Yeah.
Nobody come to grief there so far this year, as Corey McCaskill lines up in the Subaru Impreza RA. And he's put bigger injectors in the car for this event. So he's got the 24 on the window, but in fact he is 23 in the program. So
well, he had the horrible accident here yesterday, and they've done a lot of work overnight to get that car going. He had a horrible accident here that slammed into the side of the bank here, and it's they've done a lot of work overnight, obviously.
That's right. He managed to clip the tyres that separate the uphill to the downhill, and that just spun the car around and into the bank. So let's hope a clean run for Corey McCaskill today.
So yeah, I am surprised to see him going today. It looked quite bad, but obviously only panel damage only, with no structural damage.
Corey comes from Cromwell. His best placing has been 18th overall in 2016 here. So with the bigger injectors, he'll be hoping to maybe crack the top 16 this year. Well, look at that time, Lindsay. 105.64.
Yeah, that's throwing it amongst the pigeons.
So if he finished 18th overall here before, he's really got his eyes on trying to at least make the top 16, I would suggest. So Corey McCaskill, very good run for car 23, as Mike Baltrop comes to the line from Christchurch. Began rallying in 1985, competed for 18 years, and he's had a break for family reasons, and he started back last year. So back into the seat for Mike Baltrop. And of course, Mike's always been known as a Subaru man because he had the, was it a Leone that he competed in?
He did.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
And now in a fine-looking Subaru Impreza WRX. His best previous result here, in fact, has been a 106. So he hasn't done that so far this year. A 108.09 has been his best time. So can he go faster than he has before?
Well, our coverage is getting wider and wider, Grant. We're now in South America. We've got a comment here and a note from a chap called Glenn Warner in Santiago, Chile. So, hey, Glenn, great you're picking us up. Hope you're enjoying the coverage. Also one here from Logan Priest, and I like his comment, Grant. He said, loving the commentary, well-respected knowledge. Well, there we go. Thank you very much, Logan. Well, I really appreciate that.
Well, you couldn't get any better knowledge from a man who was here at the very first one, Lindsay, so you're a wealth of information, and it's brilliant to have you on our commentary team. So what can Mike do? 108.79, so he hasn't gone as fast as he has done so far at a 108.09, so 7 tenths slower this time, but still a time good enough to get him into the top 32 for sure.
Grant, I thank you for your compliment, but I start to worry now. But I've been here that long, I'll be starting to forget too much soon. Also, people who we know from rallying, like David Clearwater, David G, are all saying hi, which is great. Jamie Wilson,
Corey Hart, there
yep.
I see. Yep.
Joel Paris, Ant Dempster. So this is really great stuff. Thank you one and all.
Rangiura's Sean Haggerty heads off the start line, car number 21 in his Subaru Impreza. The third time he's competed here at the Ashley Forest. He's made it into the top 8 in 2017. That's got to be on his radar for sure this year. And his best Ashley Forest rally memory was going over the finish line backwards. Let's hope he keeps it pointing forwards and gets a good time to get through to the top 8, which he'd like to do once again. Sean Haggerty, a best time of 104.75 in qualifying 3 yesterday. Round the hairpin he goes.
I guess you wouldn't forget going over the line backwards, would you?
No. Just as well you got a rear vision mirror. Down to the finish line he comes. Will he improve on a 104.75? And he does. 104.38 for Sean Haggerty. Of course, Sean competing in 2 different cars, 2 different classes here, as drivers are able to do. Jeff Judd coming to the start line, and a big shout out to Jed, and a huge thanks to Jeff for not only supporting so many rally competitors, and in fact competitors here at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint, but also one of our live streaming partners as well, Magnum Automotive Group. Jeff Judd, the owner, and of course they have 2 stores in Christchurch and a branch in Dunedin recently opened. Vehicle compliancing, motorsports compliancing as well. The Magnum Group, warranty fitness and servicing for your general car repairs in Christchurch, motorsport preparation and servicing, and the Dunedin branch of course has that Grime Busters grooming service. As he says, the best car groomers in Dunedin. You can also call into the Magnum branch in Dunedin for your lock-on tow bars, warranty fitness servicing and repairs, and automotive compliancing as well. 3 handy locations, 2 in Christchurch and 1 in Dunedin. The Magnum Group, supporters of our live streaming coverage. Jeff Judd heads up the start, up to the Hella Hairpin, a long time competitor in this event and in rallying, both as a driver and co-driver.
Yeah, the co-driver, he was with Rhys Jones. Was it Rhys Jones he was with when they did the Asia Pacific series?
I think that is correct, yes.
Yeah. And in his own right, Jeff goes back to the 80s. He won I recall him winning the Western Rally in the mid 80s in a 1600 Escort.
Of course, he still owns that BDA Escort, and this year that car's been driven by Brian Green in the mainland, some of the mainland rally championship classes.
I'm not sure if that's the same car as he won the Western way back. I think it was only a 1600, but I'll confirm that with Jeff at some stage.
Just missed Jeff's time, but
I was talking. Sorry, Grant.
I think it might have been another 106, but he's done a 104.24, so he'll be definitely in the elimination rounds, that's for sure. As we have car number 19 to the start line, Jason Clark, of course, as we mentioned, he competed in the two-wheel drive class, and now has the Mitsubishi Evo 5 heading up the course. Jason Clark.
So you'll have to excuse my age, Grant, because I am dribbling at the times when they're giving you the times and you're missing out on the views, so I'll shut up.
Jason Clark, he's a rally class winner last year. He's put in a different diff into the car for this event, he says, and he says he's competed here heaps of times before, and of course on double duties he gets 2 shots at every elimination round.
Of course, this is the 30th running of this event, which is quite incredible when you consider it's been quite a few many years that they haven't had it, but 30th anniversary, eh?
So Jason Clark has done a 104.79 as his previous best in the qualifying rounds. What can he poke in this time? .103.65, so another second faster for Jason Clark in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 5. As car number 18 comes up to the line, Richard Bateman, another one of those drivers on double duties this weekend in 2 different cars. Richard Bateman got down to a 103.25. He hasn't been here in this car before, although he has competed here 4 times in the past, and got down to I think a 1:10.10 as his best time so far. So getting down to onto the 1 minute mark is always a goal for these guys. Richard Bateman heads to the hairpin. Richard Bateman, so in the rally car class, that time he set of a 103 yesterday, was quickly casting my eye across the times, was probably the 3rd fastest time that we had in the class yesterday. We had 2 on 102s and then Richard on a 103, so yes, he certainly is in contention for a podium in the rally car 4-wheel drive class, and also a sitter, I would suspect, for the top 16 runoff. Richard Bateman flying on the downhill part of the course and heading towards the finish line and the final corner. 102.05, so he has dropped into the 102s. So the next car coming up to the line is local Rangiora top rally driver Matt Summerfield. Competes in the New Zealand Rally Championship this year in the Mitsubishi Mirage AP4, but still has the Subaru Impreza, the car that he's taken to runner-up spot in the New Zealand Rally Championship. He also won, Ashley Forrest, in this car.
He won this event 3 times, twice in this car.
His best time a 102.86. So Matt Summerfield started rallying at the age of 16 in a Toyota Starlet, following in Dad Les's footsteps. Of course, Les was a mainland rally champion in his own right and a Subaru Impreza.
I think he started rallying from the time he could walk.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's been at every event in this part of the world since he was before he was born. It's just been consumed by rallying and loves it.
And I think when Matt finally got faster than Dad, it was time for Dad to move out of the driver's seat and hand the car over. And I said, how did he enjoy going with Matt? He's been with him in the AP4 Mirage, and he said, frightening. Can't go that fast. But Matt Summerfield, a very, very good peddler, and a 102.86 on his third qualifying run. Let's see if Matt can lower that time again.
There's no doubt about it. Matt is a very, very talented driver.
That's a fast downhill run. That was very quick. Look at him fly through the finish line. .101.06 I think I heard, but a 101. That's getting down there for the four-wheel drive rally class.
That certainly is.
And of course, his best memory of Ashley Forrest is winning it in the Steve Murphy Cordia. That is an awesome, awesome car. That car, of course, now in the museum at Cromwell at the Highlands Park motor racing circuit.
Grant, I've got a story to tell you about Matt Summerfield as a young fella.
Okay.
And I wanted this photo to be published in your Speed Sport magazine. It was a photo of young Matt at 4 or 5 asleep with a Speed Sport magazine on his lap. He'd gone to sleep. And you never published it. And I've never forgiven you for that.
Unfortunately, we don't get the chance to publish it again, but maybe we can find the photo and put it online. That's what you do these days, don't you?
That's right.
As Eric Clark takes to the course now, Eric Clark from Invercargill in the Subaru Legacy, and this car runs early WRX gear, so it's not the traditional Subaru Legacy engine and running gear underneath. It's all WRX. He's been here twice before. This is the third time, and his favourite Ashley Forrest rally memory is the downhill section. That's the one that really gets the adrenaline flowing for sure. Eric Clark. 42.21 we hear for Eric Clark to the hairpin. His best time has been a 1:10.74 in the past. And let's see what Eric can pull out of the bag for this run. Finished 21st overall in the Hanna Rally 3 weeks ago. So he's done a 109, so Eric Clark, so life continues on into the elimination rounds, I suspect, for Eric Clark, as Sheldon Bell comes to the start line in the car he's sharing with Michael Tom.
Another car that's is an ex-Todd Borden car. Todd Borden, well known in the decade or so ago. This is a lovely little Evo 1.
Of course, Sheldon Bell posted that incredible time for someone so new to this event. He's only been here once before and doesn't do a lot of rallying, but a 102.96 that he did, of course, through the finish line, but then had a big sideways moment and was saved by the hay bales as he came down the course, but shattered the hay bales, and that was what in fact caused the cancellation of the third run yesterday, and consequently we had those final cars running off in the third run off here this morning.
They had to bring the livestock in to clean up the hay bales, and so that couldn't have any waste, so that's why we had to call it quits last night.
So running no restrictor on this event, and he said watching all the greats doing this event on television growing up as a kid is his best ever memory, and we all have memories of those fantastic days. And great that those memories are being shared by another generation now, because the Momac live streaming coverage, once again going out the first time since 102.03 for Sheldon Bell. The live coverage, the first that's been broadcast live from the event since 1993 and enjoying all our viewers from around New Zealand and around the world that are enjoying this event, courtesy of the Momac crew and our wonderful live streaming sponsors.
And some of the great names, Grant, on here, and we'll go through them. Steve Millen, John Wolf, Paul Adams, Reg Cook, Trevor Crow, Tony Teasdale, Possumborn, Kim Austin, Marty Rostenberg, you know,
Yes.
great names. Steve Murphy, of course, who's around here yesterday and today, and Glenn Inkster, Chris West, John Silcock, who's not competing this year. So yeah, some great names.
Now this is a car that's being shared, so I'm not sure whether it's Sean Haggerty. I think Sean Haggerty. Yes, it will be, because he's sharing this car with Nick Clark. So Sean Haggerty it is in the car this time. So of course Sean Haggerty was one of those cars that was held over for the final 3 runs, so he's had 2 runs already this morning. 43.08 to the Hella hairpin for Sean Haggerty. Best result for Sean was 8th overall in 2017. 109.09 for Sean Haggerty. Good enough for the top 32. Mark Pedersen coming up to the line now. Car number 12. Finished 32nd in 2016. Has been here 3 times before. They built this car up from scratch. And for Mark, he says it's now running its 3rd engine. The previous 2 died, so 3rd time lucky, we hope, Mark, for car number 12, the Subaru Impreza.
So far, so good.
And Mark Pedersen's best time so far, 1:13.58. So if he wants to make the top 32, he's going to have to pull a couple of seconds or more off his rally course time. Just as we wait for Mark to come through the downhill run, through the dipper and down to the finish line, just another special mention to Wild Trailers, who supplied our base here for the live commentary and production team today. Broadcasting headquarters is a beautiful Wild Trailers horse float. With the back down, we've got a great view of the course and the action, and we thank Wild Trailers for providing our home for the weekend.
And I'm pleased that no one overnight decided to store their horses in here.
Indeed. So car number 11 to the start line. This is Luke McLennan from Ashburton. And Luke's best effort on the course so far is a 1:07.67, which he did in the 2nd qualifying run. His other 2 have been 1:11s, so he can repeat that effort from the 2nd qualifying run. That will guarantee him a position in the top 32. As Luke McLennan from Ashburton heads towards the Hella hairpin. safely around, and onto the downhill run comes Luke, car number 11. He's competed 4 times before, all top 16 finishes, and he's been involved in the sport for 4 years, competing in hill sprints and hill climbs. Let's see what Luke McLennan can post this time. 105.84, so that's another very good time, almost another 2 seconds off his best of a 107.67, so that's guaranteed him a position in the top 32. As we come to the top 10 finalists now, and number 10 will be the Mitsubishi Evo 7 of Jason McConnell. He managed to do a 108 and a couple of 109s yesterday. Let's see what he can pull out as the last.
So Jason, who combines stock car racing as well as doing the rally sprint. Quite a contrast in motorsport activities, Grant.
Absolutely. So 6 times he's been to Ashley Forest. And doing a good job as he heads up towards the Hella hairpin and a split. And to the hairpin he goes. Jason McConnell. Best result 18th in the past, and I'm sure he'd like to have a time that would get him into the top 16. 41.03 to the split. And waiting for his time. .106.23. That is a personal best for Jason McConnell from
Luke McConnell.
from Luke McLennan from
Ash Vegas.
That's the one. So
Jason McConnell now in the Evo 7.
oh no, hang on, we have Grant. No,
Oh.
that was sorry, Jason McConnell.
Now
this is Garrett Thomas.
A driver who's got a big future, in my opinion, if all goes well for him. Only his second year in rallying, and has done extremely well.
So the only thing they've done to this car since he finished second overall at the Hamner Forest Rally a few weeks ago is they've removed the restrictor, as you do, to get more power. And this is a beautifully prepared car by Dave Ollis from Wood End Automotive. Built this car, and in fact Garrett is Dave's son-in-law. So a top 16 result in the past, and he will be looking to do that and better, no doubt, in this car this year. Garrett Thomas, as you mentioned, Lindsay, a fantastic future for Garrett Thomas.
Yeah, just watch out for this name. Obviously has roots from the Welsh Forest with a name like Garrett Thomas.
The downhill run he comes, heading towards the finish line. And 1:00.90, so he's down into that magic minute. And that's a great improvement from a 1:03, started off at a 1:06 and has got down to the magic minute. So he'll be looking to go under the minute, no doubt.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
As we wait for the Mitsubishi Stallion of Graham Bajering to come to the line. Graham Bajering from Waihi with this record-setting car that was driven by Kim Austin, set the record in 1999. It stood for 17 years. What was that record, Lindsay, in 1999?
56.57 it was.
56.57. So Graham Bajering has done a 106 so far. It's his best ever. Big V8 wars. And just the second time Graham has been to the Ashley Forest. Of course, the Mitsubishi Starion V8, it's one of those cars that were built just for events like this. In fact, built for this event. He's recently used the car in a hill climb with the Thames Valley Car Club, of which he is a member, and he finished first overall. The car built in 1992 by Don Hickman. Now runs a 6-litre V8, always had a V8 in it, but up to a 6-litre now. And spectacular looking and sounding car, Graham Bajering in the Mitsubishi Starion V8. 39.72 to the hairpin.
Wouldn't be the easiest of car to drive either, I would imagine. They'd be quite a handful. (104.68) to Graham Bajering in the V8 powered Mitsubishi Starion. Down to Trevor Crowe now, car number 7. So the second run today for Trevor, got down to a 105.95 on his third qualifying run this morning. I really doubt of Trevor Crowe's introduction. We've talked about him a lot this weekend, but rightly so. I mean, he was the first South Islander to win this event in 1985 in his Oscar Racing Starlet. And Trevor's competed in a lot of rallies over the years, but is more known for his circuit racing exploits with a third at the Wellington Street Race. He's been fourth at Bathurst and won the New Zealand Touring Car Championship. And he still loves motorsport. And Trevor now in his early 70s and still working and running. And this is just part of everyday life, is competing like this.
Just while we wait for Trevor to head up towards the Hella hairpin, a special thanks and a mention to Import Parts Specialists, another one of our live streaming sponsoring partners today. Import Parts Specialists have been around since 1988, started by Ian and Paul Carter. Paul still owns and runs the business to this day at 358 St Asaph Street in Christchurch. They sell new automotive parts to the trade and the public, brakes, clutch, suspension, those small, hard to find parts for European and Japanese vehicles. All items of the highest quality. They supply parts to many of the franchise dealers, the wholesale, trade and special indent orders as well. So go and see Paul at 358 St Asaph Street in Christchurch. Import Parts Specialists. Trevor spins the car up down the finish line, doing a bit of a donut to keep it all going. And that's as the dust settles and clears, we find him. Here he is. (101.59). So he's taken another 4 seconds off his time as he pushes down towards that magic minute mark for Trevor Crowe, car number 7. And then we have...
We got it wrong. It's Trevor Crowe now.
Oh, beg your pardon?
Blue Subaru. We talked about Trevor Crowe, but here he is now, folks. So apologise for those out there for that.
Is he running... did he not get a time? Or
I don't know.
That's,
it was Crowe before, wasn't it?
It was Trevor.
Must be a no time, I suggest, folks. So he's going round again.
So there we are. Just something to confuse the commentators.
think you're seeing double with you.
Well, we did hear a time, but maybe there's something something on the course that.
So we'll see what the time for the hell here was last time was 41. Well, Mike Tool was the gearbox. 39.62, that's perfect time for Trevor. So this should be about 104. But it's Trevor the top 32. This will be an easy run into the top 32.
So Trevor comes to the finish line.
Background, we've got Paddon and Alistair McRae.
104.69 for Trevor Crow.
Yeah. I think, Grant, you just summed it up correctly. I think Mike Tall was driving Trevor Crow's car before and did the 101 because his car, the Mirage, we think it's gearbox issues. It certainly looked like gearbox issues when he failed to finish his run earlier on in the day. So I think that's definitely right.
So that's another example of the great camaraderie and sportsmanship here for Trevor to give his car up. As the only remaining Mitsubishi Mirage hybrid with Evo gear takes to the course now for Neil Webb, car number 6, third here in 2016.
And 30 years ago plus, Trevor would not have liked someone going 3 seconds faster in his car, but I will say today that Trevor wouldn't care less about that.
So Neil Webb from Blenheim heading up towards the Hella hairpin, a 2-time New Zealand hill climb champion, a 2-time New Zealand club sport champion. His best result here, third in 2016, 2 years ago. Converted to take Evo 3 running gear. Neil Webb flies downhill towards the finish line, the final corner, and Neil's best so far has been a 102.69 on qualifying 2 run. (101.84) for Neil Webb. Well, 101.84. So we now have the first of our big grunters coming up because Glenn Frew unfortunately rolled his car on the uphill course yesterday in qualifying 2. So now we move on to car number 3, Alistair McRae, in this fabulous Subaru World Rally car, the ex-Possumborn car in Hill Climb Special, last used at the Leadfoot Festival in tarmac trim, into gravel spec, and out of the museum from the Vantage team to compete here at Ashley Forest and to join those 2 very quick cars of Hayden Paddon and Sloane Cox to make it the 3-way battle to find the top 2, I would suspect. And Alistair's got down to a 58.65.
Alistair McRae, former works driver for Hyundai and for Mitsubishi, won the British Rally Championship and also won the Asia Pacific Rally Championship. Lived a bit in the shadow of his brother Colin, and his dad, I guess, too, who was a 5 times British Rally champion. But rallying and the McRae family go hand in hand, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Alistair these days living in Perth and has been trusted to take the Vantage Aluminium Subaru World Rally car up and down the course here at Ashley Forest.
It's a car that he won the Race to the Sky in the last time it was held.
Just see how quick this thing is off the start line, as are these top cars for Hayden, Sloane and Alistair. They're absolutely in a league of their own. So Alistair's going to need to drop a couple of seconds off his time to really be pushing those top two of Hayden and Sloane Cox.
And the time of the hairpin.
35.43, that's his fastest split. He's done a 36 and a 37 before, so a 35 that should translate into a 57 or 56 maybe coming down the hill.
That was quick. It's quick.
57.07.
So he's taken over a second off his best time.
He has indeed. And that's now the second fastest time on the course, behind the times that Hayden has done. Sloane Cox at a 57.42. But this is the man of the moment, Hayden Paddon, who's been absolutely the pace setter in the 3 runs he's had so far. 57.18, down to a 55.24 and a 56.58 this morning. And he is looking to try and take away that rally sprint record, which sits at 54.96. Hayden Paddon in the Hyundai, the car that he uses for the New Zealand Rally Championship. But obviously has a change of engine and all the aero kit put on the car. What a fantastic sounding car this is. And Hayden says he remembers Rod Millen breaking that magic minute, because that was always the time that everyone chased for so long.
It was talked about right from the beginning. Can it ever be achieved? I mean, yeah.
And now we've
a logical question, wasn't it, when you're doing a 105 to win the event?
That's right. Wow, he's flying. That car's twitching. He's giving it everything. Hayden Paddon. Hold on to your hats, folks. $55.41. So he has still been faster than that yet. Earlier he did a 55.24. So, yep, they're just tuning this car up, I suspect, as the runs go on. A 56 this morning, a 55. They'll be just getting ready for that 50. They'll throw everything at it.
Of course, bearing in mind the record's 55.13. There's a record, is it not?
No, 54.96.
54.96, is it? Oh, beg your pardon,
for Sloane Cox.
54.96. That's right. He did that in the last 4 last year.
That's right.
Yeah.
He did.
The final was a 55.13.
So the record-setting time didn't come in the final, as is usually the case, as Sloane Cox's Hill Climb Special Evo 8 with the space frame heads up the hill.
Watch the runs over your knees, boys.
Sloane Cox. His best time is a 57.42 so far, and he's out to keep his record, which he's got at a 54.96 as we mentioned. But wow, up to the hairpin, in wide, out and tight, out the corner he comes. Sloane, that's a very quick time out of the hairpin. 34.70 to the hairpin. $56.02 Sloane Cox in the Hill Climb Special Evo 8. So just looking at the fastest times that have been posted so far on the rally sprint course, the fastest time to date has been a 55.24 for Hayden Paddon in qualifying 2, and then the next fastest time Sloane Cox just then with a 56.02, and then Alistair McRae in a 57.07. So 1.5 seconds between the top 3 for the fastest time of the day so far.
So there's no break. We're moving straight into the top 32.
So no breaks, folks.
No
Top
breaks.
32.
Yep.
So just while we wait for the first competitors to come into the top 32, a special mention to our live streaming partners making this all possible so that you can watch wherever you are in New Zealand, throughout the world. Winmax, brake pads, Magnum Automotive Group, import parts specialists, Carter's Tyres and British Safety. We thank you for your support to allow us to bring this live streaming coverage to you. As we mentioned earlier, the first time you've been able to see this broadcast live in since 1993. And a special thanks also to Wild Trailers, who have supplied our headquarters here for the live streaming coverage today. It's where the production crew is based, and if you have horses for courses and you'd like to come and have a look at this magic, brand new, brilliantly built Wild Trailer, please do come and have a look. You're most welcome, or pop online to wildtrailers.co.nz and just have a look at what they do. Absolutely beautifully finished and prepared. They come with awnings, comfort and style, and a very effective use of space in these horse floats. So Wild Trailers, thank you for our headquarters here this weekend, as we just take a short break from our live streaming coverage, and we'll be back with you as the first of the top 32 competitors line up in the Winmax Brake Pads Ashley Forest Rally Sprint 2018. Good afternoon, viewers of our live streaming coverage today as we get set to wait for the top 32 to start the elimination rounds, the money rounds here at the Ashley Forest Rally Sprint. We're just taking a short break from our commentary now, and we'll be back closing down the live streaming and back live for the top 32.